This is the C.C.Jensen thermal oil filtration system. The first thing you're going to notice is it's in two separate skids. We've done this to make it easier to transport and to put in position, and also in some cases where the cooling unit can be placed in an area that might be colder than the ambient temperature, such as outside. Now it can be easily located in a different area and just piped to the main skid. In the event you'll be locating these two skids side by side, they can be directly bolted together through these eyelets, and it also includes the interconnected pipes that will go between the unions. There's a longer one for down below and a shorter one for up above, and this will allow you to close couple the two skids together. In the event where this will be located in a separate location, these couplers can be cut and welded to new piping for the distance that needs to be traveled. The two units need to be connected electrically, and you'll see there's pigtails coming out of the main skid and a junction box on the secondary skid. In order to connect them, you'll run it up through the extra strain reliefs at the bottom of the junction box. And then tie them into their corresponding locations. The wires on the first cable correspond to the colors of the wires on the terminal blocks here. These wires do not need to be stripped. They just have to have cut ends, and slide them into the hole with a small screwdriver. Just tip it down, and that slices through the insulation to make the contact. So do that with each of these two, and same with the ground wire. The ground wire doesn't matter if it's stripped or not. Just insert it in, slide it down, locks it in. Just make sure that they're all flat with the surface, and carry on with the other wires. You'll see the next wire with the 4 individual wires are numbered, and those correspond with the terminal numbers on the terminal blocks. So connect 1 and 2 to this middle block, and 3 and 4 go to the auxiliary leads on either side of this disconnect switch. And then you have the main power leads coming in here, and that just, again, corresponds to the colors below, line 1, 2, and 3 for the power plus the ground, and that has your electrical connections covered. Okay. To connect the electrical to the main panel, this is your source supply, and you'll open the door. You'll find extra strain reliefs located in the bottom that you can run your feed into. Might be that your cable that you're going to use is bigger than what's here, so feel free to take one of these out and knock it out to a larger size. When you'll run it up, you'll run it into the 3 terminals here on the switch. This is the main disconnect, and run a ground into the big ground lug here, and that'll have your supply. And you need to use a 575 volt 3-phase externally fused with a max fuse rating of 25 amps. Inside our panel, we have our main components. This is the variable frequency drive for the pump motor. This automatically adjusts based on the temperature of the oil, so to try and get our maximum cooling effect. We've got our circuit breaker feeding the frequency drive. We've got our fan contactor here with the overload and fusing for the fan motor. We've got a transformer and power supply for our control circuit, and just a couple of relays measuring the temperature incoming and for when to change the speeds on the pump. On the outside of the panel, we've got our main controls. We've got our start and stop button, plus an alarm light, which is also a reset button. The unit has spill sensors, so if there's ever a spill within the unit, it'll fill up this well area and trip this float switch, which will shut down the unit. That's also located on the second skid, another float switch just like on the first. So if this starts to fill up with oil, it'll raise the switch and kill power to trip the unit out. Our oil connections for the unit are located on the back side. We've got the inlet here and the outlet here, and both have built-in shut-off valves that are also lockable. So the oil flow in the unit comes in through the inlet runs through the hot side of the heat exchanger, out to the fan cooler. The colder oil comes back into the skid and goes into the main pump. The pump feeds this inlet manifold, supplying oil to each of the filter housings in parallel. The oil is pushed from the outside in through the filter media and down through the center, and the outlet manifold is down below here. So it comes this way, travels through the opposite side of the heat exchanger, and then to the outlet. So in this way, the heat exchanger helps to use the incoming hot oil to reheat the outgoing cold oil before it goes back into the system. So it's a very efficient way of managing the heat. Another feature is the built-in air vents on the top of the housing. There's one on each housing, and this is just a vent that allows the unit to bleed the air out with having to do it manually. Before starting the unit up, make sure you go through your oil connections, make sure all your pipes and your flanges, that the bolts are tight and that they've each been torqued uniformly. You want to make sure that your sample valve is closed, that your drain valves are closed on the 4 filter towers. Once you've ensured all the valves are closed and all the connections are tight, you can then proceed to open the main inlet and outlet valves. Once your valves are open, you can power on the unit with the main disconnect switch. I should probably do this so it powers up, hey? When you've got power to the unit, you can now turn on the main disconnect, and you'll see the unit light up. First thing you're going to see is this reset light come on, and in this case I can't actually reset it because I've got an alert that you'll probably also see. It says blower not ready. This means that you haven't turned on the other disconnect on the cooling skid. Once that switch has been turned on, you can now reset the alarm and the unit is ready. When you're ready to power on the unit, give it a bump first to make sure that your motors are in fact turning the right direction. And sometimes it can be helpful to have somebody nearby confirming as the motor starts up to see visually which direction it's turning. The pump motor will always turn the correct rotation because of the frequency drive, takes care of that, but you want to make sure that the fan is in fact turning the right rotation. So give a quick bump. Once you've verified, then you're ready to start the unit. While the unit is operating, if there's a safety trip situation, it will shut off the unit and light the alarm button. So I'm going to demonstrate just using the spill switch, and you'll see the light come on and the unit will quit. So you can see the light has come on, it says leak detection on the display, and the unit has stopped. In order to change filters on the unit, first you want to stop it and let it shut down. And also make sure that it's cool, that you can work on it without getting burned. Once the unit is cooled down, make sure you shut your inlet and outlet valves on the main ports. This unit is also equipped with a drain tank that will allow you to drain the filter housings into the tank base without having to get pails or dispose of the oil. In order to do that, you have drain valves on each individual filter housing here. So you'll open those, all 4 of them, and let the oil drain out of the filter housings into the tank base. To open up the canister, once you're sure it's empty, take the quick coupler off the top of the air vent. You can just set that aside. Get a 17mm socket, works best, gives you some depth to get in. And open the band clamp. Once the clamp is off, a bit of a knock will free the O-ring, and then just lift straight up. Inside we have the stack of filters. On the top is a nut that holds them all down. Simply remove the nut and take each filter off individually. This job is made much quicker using our speedy tool adapter for your drill. We do recommend using the slow speed unless you like wearing oil. With the nut removed, pull the spring out of the top, and then using the top filter insert, lift, and you'll see the spring guide come up. Pull this straight up, and now you have access to the filter stack. Once your housing is completely removed, you can now take the filters out. They may come apart in individual discs once they've been used. That's okay. With the filters removed, check inside the bottom of the canister to make sure there's no sludge or debris built up. Most of it should have gone out the drain when you emptied the oil into the tank, but there may be some residual solids left in here. You can just wipe it out with a rag. Before reassembling, you want to make sure that this O-ring is intact, that it's not squished, and we do recommend changing the O-ring every second filter change. The filters are installed just the way they came out, except they're a lot less messy. So one at a time over the bolt. Make sure the bottom one is centered on the filter plate at the bottom. You'll feel it drop in and lock in place. Each one after that isn't as critical to have perfectly centered because of the design of the filter. It just presses flat against the next one above or below it. With the filters in place, you can then reinstall the spring guide. Make sure that the O-ring on the inside has not been compromised. Then you can reinstall the spring and the nut on the top. Find it helps to pull down the spring with your hand, then you can thread the nut on gently or loosely. Once you've got it started, then you can release the spring tension. Again, using our handy tool, this greatly speeds up. Before you reinstall the canister, make sure that your O-ring is intact and in place, that it's not become dislodged, and then you can install the lower housing. Be sure that it's lined up properly as you drop it in place, and you can put the second one on as well. Again, make sure that the O-ring is intact before you set it in place. Now you can reinstall the band clamps. Once the filter housings are reinstalled, remember to connect your air vents again to the top of the canister. Remember to close your drain valves. And now the unit is actually built in with a three-way valve that allows you to pull the oil that you previously drained into the drain tank back up into the system. So you don't need to dispose of the oil that you've drained. You do that using the three-way valve before the pump. This is piped so that it can pull from either the cooler, which brings it in from your main system, or from the drain tank. So switch the valve to the drain tank. Now you can start the unit, and we recommend staying close and monitoring to make sure that once you get the oil out of the drain tank, you're not going to walk away and forget about it. So you'll either see the pressure gauge start to waver as it picks up air, at which point you can stop it, or if it's not a noisy environment, you may hear it on the pump before the pressure gauge even starts to show. Once you see evidence of air in the system, you can stop it, and then switch your valve back over to the main system, and now you can resume operation. While the unit is operating, you have various parameters that you can check and monitor. You've got the pressure, the differential pressure against the filter inserts. You've got the temperature after the cooler, so this is the temperature that is going into the filters. And then you also have a pre-filter sample point that you can use to take samples. The C.C.Jensen HTO thermal oil filtration system is a very effective way to maintaining your fluid properties of your thermal oil systems. The combination of cooling skid plus the high density fine filtration media makes it a very effective package to maintain your oil in optimum condition.